Hello and welcome. You're watching Eye on Port, the program that has been designed to bring Ghana's shipping and maritime industry closer to you. We also discuss trading issues that have some direct or indirect effect on the maritime business. It is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL, PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link, the Meridian Port Services, and the new kid on the block, Phoenix Insurance. Eye on Port is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Viewers, in this week's edition of Eye on Port, we had a conversation with Frank Ajekum, who is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana International Trade Commission. This institution was created to ensure that Ghanaian companies are safeguarded from unfair trading practices at the international stage. During our discussion, he emphasized on the need for his outfit in checking these unfair trading practices, especially in the era of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Take a listen.
What is the Ghana International Trade Commission?
Well, thank you once again. The Ghana International Trade Commission, was set up to ensure that Ghana's competition in terms of international trade, in doing that business, Ghanaian firms and industries are safeguarded against unfair trade competition. The fact of the matter is that, as you know, international trade is war.
Yeah.
And international trade, you have all sorts of means that are done to undercut the opposing country or the opposing company or industry to make sure that you are disabled to compete on a fair and even scale. So the WTO, in its own wisdom, having gone through all these, have allowed countries set up trade remedy institutions,
Right.
such as the Ghana International Trade Commission. And what we do is to look out for things which are termed as unfair trade practices.
Right.
And in terms of international trade, unfair trade practices come in various forms. Some of them are dumping. And dumping occurs when, for instance, a product is produced in country A, the country of origin. The product sells at a higher price than when it is exported to country B or C.
Yes.
So that, for instance, this product could be this water bottle could be produced at, say, $100 in this original country.
Yes.
But then exported to Ghana, in spite of the freight charges and port duties, it sells at $80. You may want to know what is the purpose behind. The purpose behind it really is to dump the market
Right.
in the receiving country. Make sure that our industries are disabled, and then eventually those companies from the original countries could come and then monopolize the country,
Yes.
the products in your home country. When that happens, a lot of things happen to the home country because the local company is unable then to expand as it wants to, because the market share, the market share of its products has been reduced or taken over by this foreign company.
Right.
What it also means that when it cannot expand, it means that it begins to lay off workers. Very soon, it's unable to pay its taxes and the rates that it's supposed to pay to government.
Right.
And therefore, government is not able to benefit from the tax returns that it needs from that company. And therefore, government is not able to undertake the development project that it has to do, like hospitals and roads and all the things that we need. Yeah.
So how does the Ghana International Trade Commission identify that this is a trade malpractice?
Well, trademark, we would want to term it unfair trade.
Okay.
And those are what I've said to you.
Yes.
What constitutes unfair trade practice? Dumping really is a surprising mechanism. We talked about subsidization, which really is not too bad, but then when it's targeted and specific, then really it becomes a problem. And we talk about safeguard measures,
Yes.
which is used to check, sudden and sharp increase in products
Yes.
between a certain period of time, because the purpose of that is also able to dampen or spoil your market. Let's face it, for all the countries that we look up to as being wealthy, developed, they are all developed countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for us together, we should also be an industrialized country. And the fact that we are not industrialized is not for lack of trial. I must say that many a time, Ghanaian industry and other African industries do try, but then the unseen problem in there is the unfair trade practice that we have closed our eyes to over so many times.
Right.
And the the AFCFTA has come in, and in its protocols, it does encourage all countries in the sub-region, in Africa, to also set up such trading institutions, to make sure that they are safeguarded.
Yes.
But I said we just have 4 going at the moment. Would have felt that there were more, so that, because we compete with people who really know what they're about, and try to do all things to make sure that they get what they want. So unless we are also up to the task, unless we're also able to meet them boot for boot,
absolutely,
in terms of trying to make sure that all the right boxes are ticked, then of course we'll always be found wanting.
So can you tell us how unfair trade practices affect the competitiveness of, industries?
Well, they affect us in the sense that you are competing with a product that is cheaper than your product.
Yeah.
So if you had a capacity of producing initially, let's say, 100,000 tons a week or a month, and you sell at price X, but because the foreign product comes in, they sell at price minus X, your product is then not able to sell. And when I go to the market, all of us, many times you want to look for the cheaper one. You look at the 2 comparative products. And I must say that unfair trade price happens when it's compared to a like and equal product.
Right.
So it must be the same product or very similar products. So in the same kind of bottle, so that, of course, the emblems may be different, the writings are different and stuff like that. But then when you go into the same, let's say 1 liter bottle or half a liter bottle, and the same size and stuff like that, why do I bother?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll buy that one, it's cheaper, even though it's coming from abroad, because that's what I can afford. Or even I can afford the expensive one.
Yeah.
I buy this because it enables me to make some savings.
Right.
So what happens at industry is that if your shelf or the bucket was like in the beginning about 70%, very soon you get to 50%, very soon you get to 20%, and then even when you get to 50%, you are producing at half your capacity. It means that some of the workers there are redundant.
Right.
You are beginning to find ways of, laying them off. When it goes on a bit longer, and it does every now and then, it does all the time,
right.
Very soon you see them complaining because they are producing at about 20% capacity. Meanwhile, they have overheads to pay and all those. So the easiest way for them to go, really, is for them to lay you off. But what happens is that the country suffer. It suffers in the sense that that industry cannot therefore have profits to enable to pay any measurable amount of taxes to enable governments to undertake the development projects that we need. You know what I mean? So there are no schools, there are no good roads, there are nothing. And people also have been laid off, so they don't have money in their pockets. They also go about complaining and moaning all the time. And some people are out there in their country enjoying and laughing all the way to the bank because they have the money that they want. And the worst part of it is that if you're not very careful, they come and take over your market. They monopolize the market. And we see it happening, where people come in and set up shop, and they're all foreigners operating in. But in terms of fair trade, yes, you have to allow them because you are not doing your job well. If you're doing your job well, then perhaps you can have local industries, local people thriving in their industries that have opened. And very soon, we also become as big as they are. So yes, it's one strand in making sure that Ghana is able to get to the developmental stage that it wants to get to, that Ghana is able to compete fairly, not only in Africa, but in the world trade. But more especially because we are in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and it's beginning now. If you are not too careful on these things, others with better means of production, others who are more advanced than us in terms of the things that we produce, would come in and then swarm the market for us.
Take advantage.
No, we are just a shell of hosting the secretariat and not getting the right benefits from it.
Can you describe the impact of your contingency measures? That's the Ghana International Trade Commission's contingency measures on trade on the country's trade relations with other countries, I mean, sometimes I'm sure in your initial submissions, you made mention of the fact that yes, there were other issues with some other, and you mentioned the WTO and the issue of arbitration and all that. How does this affect your relations, our relations with other countries?
Yes, it affects in a lot of ways, because you see, you are dealing with a foreign company. So already you are dealing on the international scene, which affects relations between your countries. You know, but then if you go by the rules, and all these things are rules-based, they're all regulations based from, taken from the WTO, which serves every country, not only us. So we are not bringing in any law that is just Ghanaian-made or African-made. We are bringing in laws that we have all signed up to as members of the WTO. And these things, remedies that are in the WTO-based. So once you are able to adjudicate on that matter, and you are sure that you follow the rules strictly, then of course. And I must say that in one instance, the moment we started to investigate one such company, the embassy has sent their trade attaché to us to try and then, lodge some complaints. But of course, we did let them know that, we're all in this together. Yes. We all want to help each other, but they also want to make sure that Ghanaian industries are able to survive. And of course, if they played by the rules, there's no problem. So far, so good for us. And we want to keep on that path to make sure that we are as thorough as possible, to make sure that we cross all the I's and the T's in all that we do. And unfortunately for local industry, for some of them, it's a bit too detailed, it's a bit too much. But really, I'm saying that we don't want to go on to the international scene and then your country loses face. We don't want to do that.
All right, so the Executive Secretary of the Ghana International Trade Commission, GITC, is saying that his outfit is keen on implementing contingency measures against unfair trading practices to protect local industries and the economy. As such, he's urging these companies to collaborate with the GITC for this purpose. Now that we've heard from him, let us also now hear from you on your comments on the subjects we have just discussed after we go on break, and we'll be back with more news. Hi, Mr. Jekum. Why has it been difficult to end dumping in the textile industry, despite government's efforts you have mentioned? My name is Pearl Agushi in Accra.
Well, the textile industry is a tricky one and a very difficult one. See, because of how they come in. Many of them come in through Togo and other areas, which is difficult to police. So if you do remember, the government at one time did say that you can only import textiles through the Takoradi Harbour corridor. Because then, of course, it's difficult for it to smuggle through there. That has not been too successful because, in all these things, it's human factor as well.
Absolutely.
People are bringing them in, and the Togo border, for instance, is a very difficult one to protect.
Hi, my name is Frank in Takoradi. How does this all play out in the sense of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? Please explain.
Hi,
Your namesake,
Yeah, I can see that. You see, with the Africa, as I have said already, now our borders are open, so to speak, for free trade to come in. Of course, I know the AFCFTA is still trying to regulate the tax rates and what goods and which goods qualify to participate in the free trade mechanism. But then at the end of the day, maybe in another 5 years or so, what it will mean is that when all these things are settled, certain goods could come in without paying any taxes or zero rated. So when that happens, it means that they're coming to compete on the market at a much cheaper rate, because then, of course, the custom charges become an issue of the past. So then, if your house is not put in order to make sure that you are able to withstand some of these things, then of course you just be there, and they'll be coming and they'll be flooding your markets.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Gold Super XP Run 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Gold Super XP Run 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Gold Super XP Run 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Gold Super XP Run 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water, or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back from the break. Now let us move on to our local news segment, which includes the fact that for the first time in 4 years, a cruise vessel called the Port of Tema. A cruise vessel carrying 150 people on board has called the Port of Tema. This is the first time in 4 years a cruise vessel has called the port. The SH Vega, owned by Swan Hellenic Cruise Line, has been on her maiden global expedition since July 2022, calling over 20 countries and ports. The Panama-flagged vessel is 113 meters in length and her width is 24 meters. This event shortly follows 3 cruise vessels that called the Port of Takoradi last month. As a matter of fact, these are collectively the first cruise vessel calls in Ghana since the national moratorium placed on such vessels in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The ship agent in Ghana, the Oil and Marine Agencies Ghana Limited, hinted at more cruise vessel calls in the near future.
In the next 2 weeks, there's another vessel coming. Yes, and it will come right also in Tema, and then it will also go to Takoradi Port. Oma, since 10 years ago, has been having cruise vessels, or we call them passenger vessels, year after year, but because of the COVID, we broke it it came down. There was no expedition for about 2-3 years, and now it has resumed again.
The Center for International Maritime Affairs, Ghana, CIMAG, has cited a report by the International Maritime Bureau's Piracy Reporting Center to be misleading in its classification of piracy incidents in the Gulf of Guinea. The executive director of CIMAG, Albert Derek Fiatui, said the claim by the IMB that Ghana has the highest number of attacks in the region is inaccurate.
Piracy per the international law, that is the UNCLOS law, Article 101, is the attack on vessels that happens in the high seas, very simply, and that of armed robbery and theft is what happens in the internal waters. So what they captured in their report is what we experienced last year at Takoradi, 3 theft cases. So if we are following the definition strictly from the International Maritime Organizations and the UNCLOS, then what they put out is misleading.
He said such reportage goes a long way to derail efforts by authorities to secure Ghana's territorial waters, in addition to making the area unattractive for the maritime business.
Issues of piracy for some time now, like about 2 years now, have been on the decline, and as people in the industry, we are happy. So when a report is put out which is not accurate, it means that the work that has been done so far is being thrown to the dogs, and we have to correct that erroneous impression. You know that most of us in the Gulf of Guinea are import-dependent economies, and so when there is that fear about piracy, which is actually not right or true, then we are putting ourselves into trouble. So it's only appropriate that we correct that thing that has been put out there.
CIMAG therefore assures the shipping community that Ghana has not recorded any piracy incident within the period of the report or the past year, and urged the shipping community to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity to the appropriate authorities.
Yeah, what we are telling them is that on authority, there has not been any piracy incident in our waters during the year of the report. The last 2 years, there has not been any single piracy incident, and so our waters are safe. Our businessmen should feel free and interact with their partners and ship their wares into the region, the Gulf region. And we are also saying that the seafarers, we have issues with people accepting to become seafarers because of the challenges they face. So some of these reports put fear in them. Our young people who are interested in the maritime industry, who want to become seafarers, should know that a lot of work is being done to get rid of piracy and the fear that their lives may be in danger when they go on sea. We are working very hard. It doesn't mean that we should be complacent. We are still calling on the authorities to collaborate, especially among sister countries and nations, so that information sharing is done accurately to prevent some of these things from happening.
Let us now turn our attention to the global stage and pick a few international shipping and maritime related news. Container shipping heavyweight Maersk has achieved a major milestone in its efforts to reduce carbon emissions with the successful launching of its first methanol-powered feeder vessel at the Hyundai Mapo Dockyard. South Korea's Hyundai Mapo Dockyard launched the feeder vessel on April 4. The ship is the company's first carbon-neutral vessel, and it will join its fleet in the summer of this year. While reporting that piracy against ships is at the lowest level in 30 years, the ICC International Maritime Bureau is repeating its calls for continued, robust, and coordinated regional and international naval presence to continue to act as a deterrent to and respond to piracy. After 2 incidents, one of which is still ongoing, the Bureau, which was set up just over 40 years ago by the International Chamber of Commerce to track piracy and coordinate the responses is highlighting urgent concerns once again for the Gulf of Guinea, as well as the ongoing problems in the Singapore Strait and South America. The IMB has recorded the lowest level of reported global piracy and armed robbery incidents since 1993. They, however, reiterated the calls for vigilance, noting that there had been 27 incidents, including 24 boardings, with 6 crew kidnapped and 2 others were taken hostage during the quarter. They are calling attention to the fact that 92% of the vessels attacked were boarded. The report was released as agencies in the Gulf of Guinea remain frustrated in their effort with the ongoing incident involving a Singapore-owned tanker, the Success 9. M.GOG, the monitoring effort for the Gulf of Guinea, issued a brief update early on April 13, reporting that the tanker remains unlocated and continuing to ask for regional assistance. The tanker, which Singapore authorities said has 20 crew members aboard, has not transmitted an AIS signal since April 10. National and international efforts are believed to be underway to locate the 4,300 deadweight tonnage tanker. Reuters cited sources in Côte d'Ivoire saying their patrol boat had not been able to locate the vessel, while the Nigerian Navy said it is attempting to help while pointing out the incident was not in their domain. The French Navy intervened in the prior hijacking 2 weeks ago, and the Italian Navy assisted with an incident. It's now time for our Word of the Day segment, where we introduce words, phrases, jargons that we often use in this industry so you can get familiar with them. Today we'll tell you what the LOLO stands for. A LOLO, or a lift on, lift off, is a container ship in which containers are lifted on or off by crane. It's now time to take a look at the schedule of vessels that have berthed in the port, those at anchorage and those expected in the coming weeks, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rate, which you may need to know to clear your cargo with. This is where we close today's edition of Iron Port. We hope you've been informed and educated. Remember, all Iron Port content can be found on our YouTube channel, Iron Port. Please subscribe, like, and give us feedback. Thank you for watching.